SimCity, a franchise that has been on a 10-year break since SimCity 4, now finally has a sequel. SimCity. Yes, a great name, and let's start by addressing the giant virtual elephant in the room, shall we? The always online requirement. SimCity has always been a single-player franchise, but the new installment takes a different turn, and it is a turn for the worse. So bad in fact, that for the majority of the time, the game is simply broken and unplayable, with a launch that really went out of its way to do even worse than Diablo 3. Over the past couple of days, people have been queuing for ages, and even entire cities have vanished. So bad a launch in fact that they had to turn off various features, such as leaderboards, but also a quite significant one, called cheetah speed, the maximum speed you can set your time at, which is now ruining the game's pace. So one would assume they did this for a very good reason, that there must be some huge underlying beneficial reason to this always online system. But there simply isn't one. It is in no way an advantage for customers. If your server is full, too bad, your city is stuck there. Everything can and likely will break at one point or another. Luckily, more servers have by now been added, server load has been reduced, and it can actually be played by a significant chunk of the player base. But even if, say, in a week everything is running absolutely perfectly, it still doesn't take away from the fact that the game simply does not benefit from this system one bit. EA and Maxis might have interesting promises for the future, but if they can't even have their servers in the current state working without having to turn off features, those seem nothing but a whole lot of maybes. And at the end of the day, you'll always be at their mercy. Now, let's actually have a look at the game itself, shall we? Oh, and if you just want to see, by chance, what happens when, say, a giant fire-breathing lizard attacks your city, well, don't do it, as it's now permanent without saving and loading. SimCity immediately shows its different focus, as it wants you to select from a set of regions. On these regions are different spots for cities, and this all comes down to the shift of city management to a more region-wide management. These regions range from only allowing up to 2 cities to up to 16 cities at once, but regions themselves cannot be customized or changed by terraforming. There is, no matter what you do, tons of dead space on the region that simply serves to give a more natural look. Once you do claim a city, you are given what seems to be quite a capable plot of land. But it really doesn't take long for you to realize that this is far, far too little. Cities in the new SimCity are simply much smaller. But the game does look incredibly sleek, and many times absolutely gorgeous, with an interface that is very user-friendly and doesn't take long to get into. Statistics too have received quite the facelift, and there's a ton of them to look at. They look quite stunning and are actually surprisingly fun to sift through. On occasion, they are a little sloppy with the data reporting though. This is partially due to the slow response generated by your citizens, meaning updates on, say, power generation can take a bit to kick in. And furthermore, some graphs only report on the current time of the day, giving a bad overall picture. However, for the most part, SimCity does an excellent job at informing you about, well, everything. With waiting times near bus stops, the average death or illness count, and so forth. Gameplay itself all begins with your first road. In fact, roads have been upgraded in this new installment to serve a multifunctional purpose. Roads are now the framework of your entire city, as they include power lines, water and sewage pipes, and all of that. Zone density itself also corresponds to street size, and it is all very easy to follow. However, due to the huge road focus, it stifles creativity, even with the new addition of curved roads, which are pretty much always less practical and efficient, which becomes a huge issue with the small map sizes. There's, say, no possibility of plopping, which is how the game refers to placing down buildings, a park behind a set of houses in a circle. Furthermore, much like with the regions, you are left at the mercy of the land as you can't terraform it yourself. You can't create ponds or hills, and the hills that do exist are often just hugely annoying, as the automatic terraforming that occurs when placing a road is utterly terrible. Creativity is lessened in exchange for easier management. Earlier I mentioned citizens. People actually exist in the new SimCity. The citizens, or Sims I suppose, travel around, commute to other cities to get, say, educated, do shopping, or even perform various crimes. You can follow fire trucks extinguishing fires all around your city, and it makes the city feel alive. A traffic jam is now not merely a pop-up, it's a line of cars moving at a snail's pace, making you realize that you seriously got to start alleviating the congestion. Additionally, citizens sometimes give you certain requests. Say they will pay you to hold a huge party, which then produces a lot of extra garbage you then have to collect. It is a ton of fun to watch and a great new addition to the series, though it isn't perfect. AI on the citizens is pretty horrendous at the best of times, which can lead to quite a lot of frustration. Even with this shift to more citizen-heavy management, there is still, to its credit, a ton of building options. Industrial, commercial, and residential zones are the basis of your entire city, and depending on what you focus on, change the entire landscape of your city. Do you want a commercial-heavy town with sprawling hotels and inns? Or do you rather focus on a functional industry, shipping cargo around without having to worry as much about land value? Utility structures and departments, too, are quite advanced, and you'll have to make a lot of choices one way or the other. This can range from the simple, do I want a park, playground, or barbecue stand, to bigger questions, such as placing down a clinic, or waiting for the more expensive and significantly better hospital. In which case you'll also have to decide what kind of upgrades your hospital will have. Even more impactful are the new specializations. You will, one way or the other, have to focus on a certain specialization, which ranges from things such as culture and gambling, to trading and oil drilling, but also, say, a city focused on collecting garbage and recycling. This is the reason why the multiplayer focus is so big. SimCity can certainly be played as a single-player, albeit always online experience, and there is certainly some joy found in that. In which case you'll have to manage multiple cities yourself at once, which then does take away from the sense of connectivity with your cities. Either way, on your own or with other players, a city cannot sustain itself, and simply doesn't survive, and certainly doesn't expand without the help of others. Yet this cooperative insistence comes with far too few safeguards, and can easily make unwanted behavior from other players more troublesome. Not to mention, organizing a working region without good communication with your fellow mayors is an incredibly huge hassle. Basically, cities will rely on each other, be it for power coverage, sewage, or maybe water supply. This is a very interesting concept, certainly, and when executed well with a bunch of friends or kind strangers, it can be a ton of fun, as you'll see your friends' cities sprawling in the distance, your citizens commuting to their lands to do their shopping or to get educated, and working together as a well-oiled machine is incredibly entertaining. But then the problems start to arrive. Be it due to bad servers or simply inherent game flaws, interactivity can and will continuously break. Whether you are trying to manage 2 of your own cities at once, or are working with a few other players, often your highly specialized system will crumble as suddenly water deliveries stop, energy isn't being delivered, workers fail to show up, forcing you to somehow deal with these new issues with your highly limited city space. It's a huge bother and ruins much of the interactivity. Additionally, time is only relative to one city. Once you leave a city to work on another, your first city is stuck, and won't advance in any way. It's easier this way, sure, but makes the connectivity feel odd and often nearly pointless. All in all, SimCity is a decent game that even shows moments of absolute brilliance. But those moments are overshadowed by the inherent game design flaws and, most of all, the incredibly obtrusive, always online requirement that will continuously annoy you. With the right assumptions and expectations, those mainly being that this is not a prettier SimCity 4 and is very much its own game, there is a lot of enjoyment to be taken out of this game. But that is, of course, assuming their servers will let you play it to begin with. SimCity overall scores a 5.5. When the game is running perfectly, it is up to a 6.5. But this is unlikely to persistently happen. Chances are the servers are acting up even more, scoring it far below the given 5.5. Overall, I can't recommend you to get this game right now. At a later date, sure, with the right expectations, it can be a ton of fun, albeit a highly flawed experience. It's a huge shame, and I've been Haas from Haas Gaming, and let's hope the next game won't shoot itself in the foot this badly.